Hello everyone, Jeff with the Green Review here. Native bees that are important pollinators include bumblebees, carpenter bees, sweat bees, leafcutter bees, mason bees, alkali bees, ground bees, and other solitary bees. Except for the bumblebees and carpenter bees, most of these are black, blue, or gray and black banded, and they are about 1/4 of an inch long. Many bees that people see and call honeybees are actually native bees or flies that look like bees. Some flies, beetles, butterflies, moths, and other insects may also be important pollinators for some plants. If you were asked to guess how many species of native bees there are in a state such as Illinois, what would you guess? Less than 50? More than 100? Most people are surprised that there are over 300 species of native bees in Illinois and more than 60 in Chicago. Worldwide, there are more species of bees than there are mammals, reptiles, and amphibians combined, over 20,000 species. A friend of mine, Ed Bell, a Chicagoland beekeeper, told me that there are several major differences between honeybees that most people are somewhat familiar with and native bees. Honeybee queens can lay tens of thousands of eggs each summer for several years, as many as 1,500 in one day. On the other hand, many native bees have only one generation each year, and the female bee may only lay a dozen eggs. Honeybee workers live for 4 to 6 weeks during the summer and up to 4 months in the winter. Foraging worker bees will visit flowers from many species of plants depending on what is blooming. Native bee species often specialize in pollinating just one family of plants. The native bees you see in early spring visiting woodland wildflowers are not the same species that you see on fall asters. Most species have short adulthoods and live for only a few weeks. Bee species in the mason and leafcutter bee family are among the easiest to attract to your garden and can be purchased in the larval stage. The adult mason bee has a lifespan of around 4 to 6 weeks. They collect pollen along the bottom of their abdomen, where it contacts new flowers each time they land. Honeybees collect pollen on the hairs on their bodies and move it into their pollen basket on their hind legs, utilizing a pollen comb. The collected pollen may be cleaned off before the next flower, so they may not be good pollinators. The most commonly found native bees are leafcutter and mason bees, early spring digger and mining bees, longhorn bees, carpenter bees, bumblebees, and sweat bees. In solitary nesting native bees, each female lays eggs, provides food for the larval stage, and creates the enclosed cell where the larva develops. There are no queens who lay eggs or workers who do everything else. Communal nesting species such as mason bees behave the same as solitary nesters, except that they happen to nest near each other. Very few native bees are aggressive, except in self-defense. The two main nesting locations for native bee species are in the ground or in tree trunks and branches. Ground nesting bees are attracted to sandy soil. Sandy soil can also be found around old sandboxes and playgrounds, or in sand installed under patios and above-ground swimming pool. Early spring digger or mining bees are the first bees you will see on woodland wildflowers in early spring. They're solitary and communal ground nesting species. At the other end of the season, ground nesting and longhorn bees are commonly found in asters, daisies, and sunflowers. Brightly colored sweat bees are attracted to flowers, but some are also attracted to the salt found in the sweat of people or animals. They nest in the ground and in dead or rotten wood. Easily recognized big hairy bumblebees often have colonies in old chipmunk or rodent burrows. A single queen bumblebee starts a new colony each summer. A large colony may only have 400 bees. Carpenter bees come in 2 sizes. Large ones are almost 1 inch long, while the small ones are less than 1/4 of an inch long. Both build solitary or communal nests in wood. Large carpenter bees burrow into wood, but small ones build nests in dead twigs and stems. Some species of these bees line their nests with leaf hairs, mud, and resin. Leafcutter bees cut circles and half-circle notches out of the sides of leaves on jack-in-the-pulpit, redbud trees, roses, and other leaves. They wrap a ball of pollen and the egg in the same piece. The nest is inserted into tunnels bored into stems of roses and other plants. These bees are beneficial as pollinators, but they also cause damage tunneling into some plants. So what's this mean to me? Many of the black and yellow striped insects visiting flowers are not bees. Some are wasps and some are flies. They're both important pollinators that can take a little work to identify. Flies only have 2 wings that are often held out from the body when they land. They frequently hover near flowers before landing. They have very short, stubby antennae, and their eyes often are so large they cover the front of the head. Bees and wasps have 4 wings that are often folded back along the body when they're on a flower. They almost never hover. Their antennas are long and they have a bend or elbow that allows them to be kind of waved around. The antennas are located in the front of the head between the eyes, and there's separating their eyes off to the sides of the head. Wasps are usually nearly hairless, while bees are usually mostly covered in hairs. But they're so small sometimes, the insect is so small that you can't even see the smaller hairs. What's this mean to me? There are 3 easy steps to native beekeeping. 1. Plant as many kinds of native flowering plants as possible in your landscape. Plant flowers that bloom in all seasons, from early spring to late fall. Different native bee species will come at different times during the blooming season. 2. Provide nesting locations. So this can be stems, it could be those hollow tubes. And 3. Don't use very many insecticides in your landscape. Be careful to protect the bees. Native bees need flower beds that are good sources of pollen that are consistently available from year to year. So perennials work out really well in large beds. They don't care about flower fragrance. Colony nesting bees need large beds of flowers, and there are more bees in a colony, and so they need to collect more pollen to raise their young. So the larger the bed, the better. Often confused with a sweat bee, the American hoverfly is an excellent pollinator. The larval stage is a biological control that feeds on aphids. The short antenna and only 2 wings sticking out to the sides help identify it as a fly. You know you can have a native leafcutter bee when you find rounded cutouts along the edges of leaves. What's this mean to me? Mason bees are highly valued because they're much better pollinators of fruit trees than honeybees. What's this mean? Some bumblebees are becoming rare. You can help researchers by letting them know which ones come to your flowers. Go to the Bee Spotter website listed here to find identification keys and how to submit your photos. What's this mean to me? Bees are not predatory at any point in their life cycle. Bees differ from wasps in the fact that the larval stage eats pollen and the adults eat pollen or nectar. Wasps eat a meat diet of insects, but the adults also drink nectar and sometimes juice from their victims. They need to eat meat and drink nectar are the reasons why yellowjacket wasps invade picnics. They're a problem late in the season because that's when the population is built up to its maximum. Wasps help the landscape by eating many caterpillars and other insects, and so they're beneficial. And this is Jeff with the Green Review. Thanks for watching.